Well, welcome everybody to our first study session for year 2020, and welcome to our new council members for your first study session. So, Sean, will you please call the roll?
Deputy Mayor DeCoursey.
Here.
Councilmember Baggett.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Jayraj.
Here.
Councilmember Malinga.
Here.
Councilmember Stearns.
Here.
Councilmember Trump Manuel.
Here.
Any announcements, reports, or presentations?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, hearing none. First item on our agenda is our council training through the Finance Department. And the overview, Director Thomas.
Council and Mayor, I'm so happy to be here tonight. I get to work, this is my first presentation in front of the full new council, and I'm very excited about that. I'm here to talk about the Finance Department and kind of educate you and get you acquainted or reacquaint you with some of the things that we all do in finance, because it's actually quite a bit of things. I printed up some copies of the presentation, so hopefully that'll be easier to read. I think some of the writing gets small when it's up on the PowerPoint presentation. So first, our finance department is split really into three primary functions. We have our utility billing department with 9 full-time employees. They are responsible for the solid waste contract, which we're actually getting ready to review RFPs here in 2020. So that's a very big project that the utility billing undertakes. We have our recycling program, and then really the bulk of what our utility billing department does is the utility billing and customer service for all of our water, sewer, and storm utilities. We've also got our accounting division, which has 9 full-time employees. We do all of the financial operations. We do the banking, investment, and debt management. We have the comprehensive annual financial report, and then the liaison with the annual financial or the state audit when the state auditors come in every year. And then the third section is our financial planning section. This is really our budget and financial planning group. They put together the biennial budget, and then they monitor throughout the year and are constantly watching the budget to actual and making forecasts and projections. So to go into a little bit more detail, I brought the managers for each of the divisions along tonight. Unfortunately, Brenda Goodson-Moore, who is the Utility Billing Account Services Manager, she was out today with a family event and was unable to make it tonight. But she is the fearless leader of the Utility Billing Department. And by the numbers, they have over 18,000 customer accounts that they bill, and to a tune of $59 million a year for those water, sewer, and storm utilities. They answer a little over 51,000 phone calls a year, answering questions and setting up payment arrangements for certain accounts. We also have a senior disabled and low-income program for certain utilities, and we have 338 residents and utility users that take advantage of that program, and they oversee and monitor that program. And then there's the solid waste contract that I'd mentioned earlier. So not only do they put together the RFP for services and negotiate rates for that contractor, they also manage the contractor and make sure that customers' garbage and solid waste services are running smoothly. And then the recycling program with quarterly events throughout the year throughout the city. The next division is our accounting division, and that is overseen by Kevin Fuhrer. He's our assistant finance director. He actually has a pretty wide variety of things that he oversees. We've got our financial operations, our financial statements and audit, and then banking, investments, and debt. And within those things, there's a lot of different things, but that's really kind of the 3 most important areas. For financial operations, that's accounts payable, accounts receivable, and payroll. So as you can see by the numbers, we process over 13,000, almost 14,000 paychecks every year for 610 full-time and part-time employees for about $40 million a year. And we process 22, almost 23,000 invoices annually to the tune of $93.4 million. And then we bill over 1,300 accounts for accounts receivable. So whether those are contracts, interlocal contracts that we have, or contracts with businesses, there's a wide variety of things that we bill for, and that's all done through our accounts receivable department. Then our financial statements. Every year we put together a comprehensive annual financial report. We also call that our CAFR. It's a really unique acronym. And that is all of our financial statements, our notes to our financial statements, our management discussion and analysis, which is all required by state law. And that is also significant portion of the audit. So also required by state law is an annual state audit. And the auditors work for the Washington State Auditor's Office. They come in and they have three different audits, which you guys will actually be invited to both the entrance conferences and the exit conferences with those auditors after they've completed our audit. They look at three things. They look at our financial statements to make sure that we are presenting them accurately and correctly, and that they're materially correct in all aspects. They also audit what they call a single audit, which is our federal grants and the money that we spend, that we collect from federal granting agencies. And there's certain laws and compliance requirement areas that the federal government requires when we spend federal money, and the state auditor's office is acting on behalf of the federal government, making sure that we are spending that money appropriately. And then the third piece is the accountability audit. This is the audit that makes sure that we are following all state, local, and city laws, and that we are being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And then the last piece is the banking investments and debt. This is really making sure, again, it's kind of a safeguarding of the city's assets, making sure that we are leveraging all of our cash and investments. So at the end of December 2019, we had $121 million in cash and investments. And so Kevin and his group make sure that we have our money either in our local government investment programs, CDs, treasuries, making sure that we have a good spread on where we have our money, making sure that it's invested and compliant with both state laws as well as our own investment policies, but making sure that our money is actually working for us and not just sitting interest-free in a checking account as well. And then another piece is our debt. So we do have $26 million in LTGO bonds, which is backed by the general fund, essentially taxpayer dollars. And then we also have $25 million in outstanding revenue bonds, which is debt and bonds that are backed by user fees of our utility systems, so that we will pay that money back through user fees on those utility systems. And we work really closely with bond counsel and our underwriters, making sure that there aren't refinancing opportunities and there aren't savings opportunities through refunding. So, usually every couple of years, we will be refunding one of our outstanding debt issues so we can take advantage of interest rate savings. So then that brings me to the financial planning division, and that is led by Bob Brooks. And him and his group, he has 3 FTEs. They really are the backbone to the budget. And they put together the biennial budget, which we do every 2 years. They monitor our budget to actual activity, both on the revenue and expenditure side. They're monitoring trends, making sure that we don't need to be making any adjustments through budget adjustments, which we do several times throughout the year. And they're also looking at forecast projections and what are our trends moving beyond even the current biennium, the current 2-year period, and making sure that we're not taking things into consideration now for the future. And then the last piece is making recommendations for budget amendments. And his group also works with the departments throughout the city to collect information if there's new grant opportunities, if there's new programs, making sure that those new opportunities and programs are getting put into the budget adjustments throughout the year. So I was going to dive a little bit more into budget because we are going into a budget year, and we're going to be coming and talking to you quite a bit about both our general fund as well as the budget throughout 2020. So just to give you a really brief overview of what to expect and what the budget is about, I was going to try to hit it really high level and try not to get into the details too much. So we are legally required to adopt a balanced budget, which means we can't budget for expenditures that exceed our existing resources plus our existing budgeted revenues. So when we're putting together our budget, we have to be very conservative and we have to be really reasonable to make sure that we're not trying to appropriate money that we don't have. And we also can't exceed our legal budget authority. So once council has adopted a budget, staff cannot spend more than what you have given us the authority to spend. If you adopt a $100 million budget in the general fund, we cannot spend $101 million, which is one of the reasons why we monitor the budget very closely to make sure that we're not going to exceed that. That is something that the state auditors look for in their accountability audit, to make sure that whatever the council has adopted and given staff the authority to spend, that we didn't go above and beyond that authority. We in Auburn have a biennial budget, which means we only create a full new budget document every 2 years. We're in year 2 of the 2019-2020 budget. The state law allows this. It has to start on an odd number of years. So we don't have the option to start a biennial budget in 2020. We had to have the budget cycle begin in 2019. The council has to adopt the budget no later than December 31st. We have to have the authority from council to spend money before we start spending money. So that means for the 2021-2022 budget, we will need council to adopt that final budget no later than December 31st of this year. So we now have less than a year to get the biennial budget together. So we're going to be working hard on that this year. And then the last piece to the biennial budget, just because we're putting together a large document every 2 years, we do have to do a mid-biennial true-up at the end of the first year. So for the council members that have been here, they just adopted our mid-biennial true-up back in November. It's really taking all of the information that we have already collected for 2019 and projecting that forward into 2020 and making sure that we don't need to be making any adjustments into 2020 with the most current information that we have. So this is more visually the overview of our budget process. Very high level, the end of the first quarter and into the second quarter, the mayor and the council really set the priorities for the city with making sure that they're in alignment with our mission, vision, and goals. With that information, the finance department puts together a baseline budget to send out to departments, and they put together their budget with the programs that are in alignment with the goals of both the mayor and the council. And then finance puts together a preliminary budget for mayor and council's review. We have a series of public hearings at the council level to ask questions, to make adjustments and tweaks along the way, and then by December 31st, the council hopefully will have adopted and passed our budget at the end of, or by December 31st. And then beyond the budget adjustment, we're making tweaks throughout the year. That's in 2019, we had 4 budget adjustments throughout the year to reflect changes in programs and revenues. We have the mid-biennial true-up, and then in 2020, we'll be doing additional adjustments and then having a year-end budget adjustment at the end of 2020. Now, I'm going to just discuss really briefly the different fund types, only because in the coming weeks, we'll have different departments coming and giving you presentations about the services that they provide, and that the services they provide come out of different funds, and really what the different funds mean is how are those services paid for. So there's 3 primary funds. There's the governmental funds, there's proprietary funds, and there's fiduciary funds. The general fund, which is the city's largest fund by and large, is a governmental fund, and it's primarily supported by tax dollars, so property tax, sales tax, utility taxes. And then there's a handful of other funds, special revenue funds, debt service, and capital funds. Those are primarily supported by one-time sources, so restricted resources, whether it's grants, restricted taxes. Though all of those funds are used usually for one-time type of projects. They're not meant to support ongoing operations.